Hi guys, welcome back to Sparkle on Substack with me, Claire Venus. I'm so excited to have my pal Phil here. So Phil and I have only just met last month over in New Orleans at the Writer MBA conference, and it was really wonderful to connect with Phil and understand more about a brilliant startup that he is involved in. So I've invited him onto the podcast to tell you guys more about it because I think you are going to love this concept. And also, I'm trying to convince Phil and his team to arrive onto Substack. So I thought it would be a nice chance just to have like a really authentic, natural call around what Substack is, and then also to hear from Phil about what his brilliant new app is. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Claire. It's good to see you again.
Oh, it's nice to connect. How's your day going today? Where are you? How's the weather?
Weather's terrible. It's Portland, Oregon in April, and so that's not unexpected. The Pacific Northwest can be wet and cold, and that's what we've got today. But
That's what
uh,
you've
but it's
got.
great to be with you. You make it a bit brighter, so that's awesome.
Oh, that's so nice. And it's lovely and sunny today. I'm on the Northumberland Coast. For those tuning in from the UK, you will know where it is. But if you don't, I'm next to the Harry Potter castle. So I don't see it from my window or anything, but it's not too far away. So, Phil, when you and I met, I'd already had a little bit of context to what you guys were developing because I know a couple of people on your team and it was blowing my mind. And then, so it was brilliant to meet you and hear more of the concept and the vision for this brilliant app. Like, can you tell us more about it? Can you tell us what it's about?
I sure can. I'd be happy to. So a little bit of context maybe could help set the table. So my co-founders of my company, which is called Spoken, and I developed a conversational AI company in healthcare. My background was healthcare. I was trained as a surgeon, and then I went on to technology many years ago. But we sold that company back in 2021, and then I went to go complete my hard sci-fi novel called Taming the Perilous Skies, which you and I have talked about separately, and in that journey, I met some incredible people that just really motivated me, not only on the craft, but also on how technology can help indie and self-publishing writers really bring their work to life using technology in a way that wasn't possible a year or two ago. And I'm an audio only reader myself. And so audio is top of the marquee for me. And so when as I was going through this journey, I learned about the great state of the art on artificial intelligence and AI narration in particular, and so I tried to use that emerging technology for a short story of mine where I had six different characters that were different accents, and so it was really kind of perfect for a multicast, kind of approach. And boy, I'll tell you, that was just so difficult to do. And there were some accents, so I still had to hire voice actors, which was expensive. And so in the end, the workflow was difficult. It was expensive, and I finally ended up with this work. It was a short story in that case, that was 40 minutes long, and I was pretty happy with it. But then I had nowhere to put it, because it was 40 minutes long, and I couldn't put it on Audible because it did have some AI in it, and it was only 40 minutes long. And so that's really where Spoken was born, is out of a need to be able to easily create great audio, including multicast audio, in a way that's really inexpensive, but then be able to have a place to actually stream and share and ultimately monetize that work in all in one place. And so that's the origin story of Spoken, and what we've deployed. We've had it live in a free beta since July, and it continues to grow, and we continue to just get great authors on the platform and listeners on the platform, and we're doing some pretty remarkable, groundbreaking stuff. So we're excited about it.
I'm so excited about it too. What was really brilliant for me in New Orleans was meeting a lot of fiction writers because I don't come across fiction writers a lot in my work. Like I tend to work with more memoirists or non-fiction writers. There are fiction writers in Sparkle on Substack, but it was really fascinating to understand and to step into their world and to understand some of these blocks that you're describing because I'd never thought about it in terms of that multicast approach and how you would actually produce a book with lots of different characters in a way that felt really authentic and could connect to the listener. And I was thinking about this actually on the plane because I am not like, I'm not in my audiobooks era, let's say. Like, I'm a busy mom, like, I've got my own business. Like, I'm not listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts, but my son listens to audiobooks. And so he listened to like the whole Harry Potter suite of audiobooks in like a
Yeah.
oneer. And it's one person, right, reading all of the characters. And so I was thinking, like, wow, like if this was reproduced and my 10-year-old could hear Harry Potter with all of the characters, and he would then re-listen because he already has started re-listening from the beginning because he's found it like really soothing as a story. So I was just imagining the potential of all of the stories and it being delivered in this way to the people who are in love with audiobooks, and I know quite a few of them. And I was just like, this is really groundbreaking. Like I didn't realize that that was the reason that it was one voice because of a cost thing, or I thought, yeah, I just thought that's what audiobooks were. Just one person read them out like a bedtime story. But no, like it's like a dramatization, like almost like a script. Like it's lovely.
There's a lot of potential there. Now, the majority of our author users still use single narrator, and
Okay.
single narrator is great. It's the tried and true. In this day and age, you still get more narrative cohesion when it comes to single narrator because there's a lot more context to every
Mm-hmm.
passage. And so when we actually deploy a multicast, what we call multi-character, multi-voice, or MCMV. When we develop that, we take each passage spoken by a character and we separate it out from its dialogue tag, which has to then be spoken by the narrator, right? I mean, so that's
Okay.
how a multicast is approached, and in doing that, you can lose some of that narrative cohesion. Well, right now, actually, knock on wood, it might be today or tomorrow that we actually release this enhancement to actually be able to maintain emotional cohesion even with that breaking apart of those passages. But having said that, the whole goal of audio is to allow the listener to be able to be lost in story, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
lost in story. You're not thinking about narration. You're not distracted by narration. You're lost in story.
Mm-hmm.
And single narrator still has an edge. And voice actors with studio recordings still have an edge
Mm-hmm.
above that. And so you talk about Harry Potter. And by the way, since you're right there by the castle, if you happen to see JK, just just let just let her know that we would welcome a lost chapter from Harry Potter Unspoken because
Wouldn't that
because
be awesome?
I mean, I don't think I'd have much convincing to do of my colleagues at Spoken to welcome that on the network. But Stephen Fry, I'm listening to that as well, right? Because I've
Mm.
always listened to Jim Dale and on it, but the Stephen Fry recording is just as good. And so the voice actors, they still are the gold standard, in that
Mm-hmm.
emotional delivery.
Mm-hmm.
But for the self-publishing writer, even the memoirists, even the nonfiction folks.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same release that we're releasing that emotional cohesion, enhanced emotion, we're also delivering personal voice, which means that
Nice.
you can put your own voice onto the network using a very short recording. Either you've already recorded it or you can just read it right into the microphone. And now your personal voice will be on spoken for your own use for your works. And that I think is going to be really groundbreaking for those who especially do nonfiction. Anyway, I guess that all of that word jumble there was all about just trying to get the end result in the audio to where the listener can be really lost in that story. And whether it's single narrator, whether it's done in the author's voice, or whether it's done in that full audio drama like multicast way, we're really intent on making sure that we're bringing the best for authors to bring to their readers and their listeners.
And it's such a beautiful intention, and I can see it working so well for so many people. I feel like because we are consuming books in that way, and it brings the books with us on walks, it brings us on long drives. Like obviously, you guys in the States like have big long drives to do, and even big long plane journeys, So there's all of this potential, isn't there, with audiobooks in this new way. And then for us as the owner of that book, like what started happening for me was, well, this has always been something that I've never ever considered, right? So now that I can creatively consider something like that, what would a fiction be? Like, who would the characters be? And what would those voices sound like? And that just felt, yeah, that just felt like really groundbreaking work to me and very exciting that this already exists within an app, called Spoken. I just love that something I'd never ever thought about before. It exists, it's real. I think a lot of us felt a bit like that in New Orleans, didn't we? Like you guys have obviously been developing it, but lots of people that we were encountering were still like, wait, AI can do what now? Like it was still quite, yeah, it was a big thing.
Yeah, it is a big thing. In New Orleans, we got some wonderful reactions to it. And a couple of things in particular really strike people. So our library of voices that we have on the library to choose from are almost all voice actors, actual voice actors. Their voices are on AI models and they get paid for every use.
Okay.
But if you want, and this is especially interesting, if you take the multicast approach, um, you can what we'll do automatically, you don't have to lift a finger to do it.
Mm.
We'll analyze every one of your characters in depth, and then we create a voice prompt describing the voice for that character derived from the way that you wrote that character.
Yeah.
And then we'll loop that through the models to create a voice never before heard. That's just for you, exclusive for you, for that character.
Wow.
And that's just kind of mind blowing. We're actually adding a new voice partner now, which we'll be announcing very soon, that does that approach, the emotiveness of those voices. They're so incredible. So we continue to build on that. One of the other things that really shock people is, sometimes a passage needs to be delivered in a certain way, and I actually have a little story that I use as an example all the time called Welcome to the Audioverse. And it's two
Mm.
young people looking up at the stars. He's an American young guy, and she's a British young woman, and they're speculating about maybe being able to change their voices to different fun little voices, and it's called Welcome to the Audioverse. And she speculates about maybe being able to throw her voice like being a Southern American, in the American South, female. And so she throws her voice in that kind of way. But if you were to have the AI just read that, it reads it straight in that
Hmm.
British accent,
Hmm.
based on the character. But then if you want it delivered in a particular way, in the way that she should deliver it, you can just touch the microphone on spoken, speak it the way you want it spoken. And then it comes out exactly like that in that character's voice. And so you have control over the prosody, over the delivery of that passage. And so those kinds of things, they just seem kind of magical right now. And they
Mm.
are.
And I think, yeah, the speed at which we can create our art or add depth to our art, like that's what's exciting to me with AI.
Right.
And, we've got to be, I guess we've got to tread carefully just because people hear AI and we've got this kind of these two camps at the moment because of the whole thing with Meta and the stealing of the books. So, like, we're dealing with all of the fallout of that and people just being like, oh my goodness, like I was barely scraping a living anyway, and now like Meta stole all of my books, and that's like really damaging. And like my voice is my voice. And then we've got this other camp, like myself and like other creative business owners that are like, thank goodness for ChatGPT. Like, wow, like it can do so much of what I need, and actually it can get to the point quicker, like in terms of strategizing or condensing. Like I've just had a one-to-one before this call, and so being able to upload a transcript and say, summarize this call for me with action points. Like, I'm not sitting there for an hour typing that up. I'm not re listening. Like, all of that work can happen, which means I can do more of that work with more people. So, there's so much when we do lean into the creative potential, obviously with caution and like keeping the authenticity and keeping the human element, but we can't lose the human element because we are the humans, the robots are the robots and the robots are an extension of our art. And I love it. Like I'm all for it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think, we feel the same way that, and for in our world, the author brings their words, right? I mean, bring your
Hmm.
words
Hmm. Hmm.
and bring your concept, bring those characters, bring that setting, bring that story to life. But if you're able to do that now with audio, which is growing like gangbusters, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
audio listening, we say listening is the new reading. The reason that we say that is because if you take like the ebook sales. They're growing at about 1% a year, year over
Hmm.
year. Audiobooks are growing at 26% year over year.
Wild.
And
Mm.
and and audiobook sales are expected to pass ebook sales this year. And they're growing so rapidly. And the reason is because demographics, younger people, they're listening,
Hmm.
over, reading. And and so when you combine that with busy lifestyles and commuting and all that, audio just makes all the sense in the world. And being able to bring that in an affordable way to authors, and again, allowing that reader to be lost in story, is it's just a really interesting time right now.
It's beautiful. And I do want to talk more about the accessibility and the cost and like your guys' plan for all of that. But I was just thinking about a story. Actually, just recently I went to an author event and the author was reading from her book. Big shout out to Sue Reed. She's amazing. So it's fiction, set in the northeast of England. She's brilliant. She did partnership publishing and now she's got a book deal for her second book. So we quite often see this on Substack. You know, authors are kind of writing their Substacks, like getting their books out there, making book sales, popping up at book festivals. You know how it all goes. So anyway, I went to hear Sue read from the book and I was with my 4 year old. And as soon as Sue said, okay, like I'm going to read the story, I'm going to read part of the story, my daughter Luna sort of snuggled in, started listening, and then just dropped off to sleep. Like she's 4, she doesn't really nap anymore. You know, she's always on the go, but it was that permission to just be down regulated, to be soothed by story, to be held in story. And I think we need that. Like we need that because of our existence on the planet right now, because of politics, because of everything, because of the fast pace of the internet. Like we need to feel soothed. And I feel like audio has a magic quality to it. Reading stories has a magic quality to it that actually downregulates our whole nervous system and makes us feel soothed and seen. So yeah, another reason that I just wanted to like weave that in, because I think if you have forgotten about story and being told stories, it can be, I mean, it's been since the beginning of humankind, hasn't it? We've told each other stories, we've like lent in and we've like mastered storytelling ourselves in our work. But to be held and told a story to is a really magical thing. So that's why I'm excited to download the app, which I am definitely doing after this podcast. But let's circle us back, Phil. So if I download the app today, you were saying that you are in beta, so it's like a free experience for now. Is that correct? And then what happens after that? Are you building it to a certain scale, and then it'll start being a subscription service, or how's it going to work?
Yeah, so yeah, you're exactly right. We're in free beta right now, so everything about it is free. If you go and you create your story to narrate it, that's free. To listen is free. No subscriptions needed right now. The plan, by the way, you said to download the app, right? It's a web application, and so whether you're on your phone or whether you're on desktop, it doesn't matter. There's no download needed right now. And so you just go to spoken.press, and you can just get going and start on it. And so we also have a promo code, that you can use, if you go on, and for your listeners, or viewers, we're on YouTube, right? They can use a promo code Brave. And if they use that, they'll be upgraded to writer status. You won't have to make the request to be a writer on the platform. You'll just automatically be granted that access to studio, is what we call it, spoken studio. And so yeah, I encourage all of your viewers to go out and take a look and create the works that they have. Start with a short story if you want. You could do a full audiobook in one sitting if you want as well. As far as the longer term plan, we will charge for narration. If you download your work, you want to take it with you. That's what we call it, take it with you. We'll charge you for that as well. Very affordable though. So if you think about the usual cost for audio production, generally that would be, for 100,000 word novel, that would be somewhere in the order of $5,000 if you think about workflow plus voice actor and
Mhm.
all of those costs. So in our world, that would probably be around 40 or $50 total.
Wow.
And so we like to say that you can do an entire audiobook, even with multi-characters, high quality, in a single sitting, in the time it takes to order a pizza. You can do all of that for the cost of the pizza.
The
Uh,
speed, I mean, the speed, the cost, like the efficiency, it's just mind blowing. It is. Sometimes I just feel like we're living in the future. Are we living in the future, Phil? Like, is this now? This is real. This is our work now, right? Like, it's amazing.
we could not be doing anything that we're doing now even a year and a half ago. And
Right.
so people ask me, they ask me all the time, well, what does 5 years look like? And I say,
Mm.
well, let me tell you what I'm delivering on Monday.
Mhm.
And they're like, what? Like,
Mhm.
what? I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah. So voices
Mm.
designed around your characters, your own personal voice that you can use to narrate, all of the emotional inflection, timing, and delivery. And when I combine all that for them, plus the network side where we're streaming actively and discovery tools and teeing up just the right next story for the listener based on the dimensions of that story. They're like, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, so asking me what it's going to be like in 5 years, I don't know, but that's Monday.
That's Monday, that's coming. Yeah. And I guess there's like been a really similar trajectory with my work on Substack. So when I first started writing on Substack in 2022, it was a platform for writers. And ideally, it was a platform for writers to be paid for their writing. And so I arrived as a creative producer and somebody who was curious about multiple income streams in my business. And I was thinking, okay, like I'm going to write some long form stuff here. It's actually really refreshing for me to be here away from social media and away from client work, and I can just see what voice wants to come out. So that's a lot of how I hold people now at Sparkle on Substack. Like, what voice is it that wants to come out? Like, you don't have to have a fully formed personal brand or a company or any of that stuff. Like let's just get back to that. And then video was in beta testing. And I was like, yeah, great. Okay, Substack video. I'll apply for that. I'll use that. Podcasting. So it's a free podcast host. So that's where I host my podcasts. And that feels really good. And then now we have these AI voices that we can choose from. So we have these different AI voices that we can select that will automatically read our work to our readers if we want. So like just I think there's about 7 of them now. That's like very relatively recently, maybe in the last 3 months or so. But the lovely tool for me with Substack has been the community connection. So being able to like connect to like-minded people who are also interested in the stuff that I write about, who are also interested in being in community and chatting about different things, resources or lifestyle a lot of the time. And also the tool of transcripts, because what I've realized, because I'm very passionate about mixed media and I always have been, is we're all having a different experience online. Some people want the AI voice. Some people want to listen to my podcast. Some people want to watch the video podcast on YouTube. Some people want to come to a live call. Some people want to have a chat in the chat. So there are all of these different tools that Substack have given us as publication hosts and curators to be able to reach our audiences and to build rapport. So I'm a real community builder and I love all of that stuff, and that's beautiful. You can still be an introverted person writing your posts and, turning off comments if that's what you want. But it has been really beautiful to see the expansion of Substack and hold all of the different shifts and changes that the AI and the different formats and tools have enabled. I think that's been really, really cool. And it feels like this is a big shout, but it feels like the platform knows what to suggest to us. And I feel like that's what's moved on because when I was trying, little bits of pieces here and there on social media, I was like, oh, it just feels like nothing really is sophisticated enough. It doesn't know who I want to talk to, who I want to find. People are talking about finding their tribe online. None of that seemed possible. And that feels very possible on Substack. So, yeah, so it's been a great journey to be there and then to be able to have email subscribers that you can write to directly away from the over distraction of social media has been a real gift for us business owners, as we're building, because we've got that attention economy. They're there, they give us their email addresses. So yeah, so it's been really cool. So I think there's something really beautiful in the work that you guys are doing, that if my audience just turned their head over and listened to this, they'd be like, that's really cool because that pushes my art. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, you hit on all the things, all the beautiful things. So you talked about a couple of things in particular that I'd love to just tease into a little bit there.
Mm.
And so one of your motivations was to make sure that you're building your entrepreneurial business, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
Substack helped you to do that. And that was a big motivator for Spoken as well. And then the other big motivator was the other piece that you talked about, and that's finding your tribe, finding community, building community around audio. And so on the one hand, because we're a two-sided marketplace, right? We can't have listeners unless we have authors. We can't have authors unless they get listeners.
Yeah.
And so that's a particular challenge. And so on the author side, what we represent is not just the ability to create with studio those great works, but to be able to stream and monetize that. And I didn't really go into that much. But once we actually go live with our V1 product, which we anticipate will be this summer, authors will be able to actually post their works for direct sale at whatever price they want, and they'll get the most favorable split on that with us of anything in the market. So you're going to get the vast majority of that sale price. You're gonna walk away with. But what you can do also is you could place a work behind a subscription model as well. And our subscription model, which we call the Affinity subscription model, will charge $10 a month for a listener that wants to get endless listening to works that are placed behind that gate. And if you, as an author, place your work behind that gate, like short form, for example, which I think will be great under that subscription model, the writers will get 50% of that subscription directly and proportionally based on to that listener's listening that month. And if you know how the current pro rata model like Spotify works, you
Mm.
know that there's no way to actually tease apart how much of that subscription of a subscriber on Spotify you actually get because they tilt the tables to those big producers, not the indie author. And
Hmm.
so for us in our world, once we actually do start charging the listener, and if you as an author place your work behind the subscription gate, the authors will get 50% of that subscription directly and proportionally based on the listening of that listener that month. And so that's
Mm.
a pretty big difference. And so being able to monetize your work is really, really important. But if you've got that teaser chapter that you want to place for free that leads to that direct sale work, you do it. If you're a new
Mm.
author and you just want to put out your entire first novel for free, or you want to serialize that novel, like I'm going to be doing with mine this summer
Yes.
on Spoken and Substack too. Actually, I'm going to pair the two together.
Nice.
Um, then you do that. So we want to give a lot of flexibility. But the other thing though that you mentioned is community and
Mm.
finding your tribe. Um, and so discovery is an important part of that, right? Being able to find the works that really speak to me. And does this fit within the palette of stories that I've been enjoying and listening to and finishing? And so discovery, using some of the tools we have now available and dimensionalizing those stories allows discovery to be all that much more exciting. And then on top of that, the idea of the listener being a little bit more participatory, right?
Mm.
Maybe they're
Hmm.
reacting in that timestamp kind of way as the story goes along, and maybe that then drives some of the other discovery that they have access to. We're going to be bringing a lot to the table on that front, which is that more participatory listener opportunity if the listener wants to do that.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a pretty interesting dimension of all of this. So those two things, monetizing and the discovery and the listening side of the equation and finding your tribe, building community around audio works is something that we're doing that really nobody else has. And
No, it's
so
amazing.
yeah.
It's so cool. And I wrote a couple of pieces under a pen name on Medium because I'm always fascinated with how it feels to be on an online space, right? Because I teach that, but like I'm very visible in my online space on Substack. So I was like, I'm going to write on Medium. I don't really know, how the model works, anything else, but the freedom to be able to write under a pen name. And so it's like part memoir, part fiction is what I've gone for. And I'm like, I wonder if I just lift that and put that into spoken and just see what happens with that. Like have somebody else read it, like a different accent or whatever else. It just feels really fun. I just feel like there's part of because, people are always like, don't monetize all your hobbies, but like, hello, if you want a working life that you love, like you do need to monetize some of your hobbies. So I'm like, okay, but yes, but then also like, where's the play? Where's the creative play in that? Can we just like, yeah, just have a play around? It's really interesting to me as well. I mentioned at the start around coming to Substack and being curious about this multi-hyphen, this portfolio career, multiple income streams in an entrepreneurial business that kind of helps us to feel like our business is working for us. And so that excites me as well. With Substack, the average is a conversion rate of sort of 3 to 5%. So if you're kind of looking at 100 subscribers and then upwards, you can kind of pretty much measure that paid conversion rate and just kind of keep at that standard. There's also conversions as high as 10 and a little bit higher, 10%, but then 1% and 2% is also normal. So I'm always teaching people to look at, okay, but what are you do like what there's so many opportunities within that because yes, you've got your paid subscribers, or if it's me, I have got paid subscribers on one newsletter and then I've got members on another. But there's also that kind of scope of the other people in that audience, right? So if I was like, okay, guys, like there's 15,000 of you, I've put this piece of art on Spoken, I'm really excited about it. I'd love you to head over and listen. It's something really different. I don't think you'll have expected this from me. Like, I feel excited about that already. I'm like, here it is. Like, here's my art. Go over there and listen. So I think that feels exciting to be able to offer people another part of who we are, of the multi-form artist, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. So
Yeah, come
so
over. Yeah.
we're gonna hold you to that one.
Okay, I'm gonna just share my screen and show people that are watching the video version the spoken site because it's very beautiful. Phil has a lovely business card. Can you see that all right, Phil? Is that popped up?
I don't see it yet.
Okay, let me just
And if
try
you want to see the
again.
logged in experience or maybe even an example, I'm happy to share mine as
Oh, let's
well.
do it that way around then. Right, okay.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah, we'll
Sure.
do that. I'll just give you the permissions. It's for some reason Zoom's been really slow with screen sharing today, so it's just letting me stop share. Let me give you the permission, and then you
Okay.
can do yours because I'd love you to give us a little walkthrough.
Yeah, I'd
Make
love to do
co-host.
that. That's
There we
great.
go. And then people can see. But like that example I mentioned, I think people will have all sorts of ideas and stories popping off. There's a story in a drawer over here, or they want to try a bit of a first chapter over here. So here it is. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So as we talked about, spoken is sort of a strange combination of two things. On the one hand, it's studio, and so you see this create over here. We want to break down all the barriers between what makes a writer versus what makes a listener. Maybe, yes, of course, we're going to have authors who have a lot of fantastic works and they're monetizing that. But if somebody just has that short story, that one poem that they wrote, and they want to put it on, we want to make that very easy. And so that's studio and that's over here. But we pair that with the network streaming, and you can see those works here on spoken. And so here's an example of things that I've been listening to there. We have playlists which are created. A lot of these are short works, some of them are full audiobooks. And so you see a variety here. We like to say that we are a combination of breakthroughs to bestsellers. And so Jessica Wheeler here, a wonderful writer who's one of those breakthrough artists, and she sits right alongside authors like Jonah Cease. So there's Jonah Cease, a New York Times best-selling author. And then there's Jesse Quack, a great speculative fiction writer from right here in Portland, Cody Cisco, who's also a wonderful speculative fiction writer. And so we have breakthroughs to bestsellers all on the same network. And then if we go into the Broken Mirror series by Cody, what you'll see here is that each work gets their description. And then each author also gets their own profile. And so let's go ahead and go into Cody's profile here. And so you see that he's got four different works on the platform. And you can you can go and peruse his entire profile and the works that he has. But how do those works get on the network? I'm going to show you real quick. Okay. So let's just go ahead and take a little story here. We'll take that little story I was mentioning earlier, which is called Welcome to the Audioverse. And you might have noticed that I just clicked confabulate. And so this is just a 4-minute little story. And so what you'll see right here immediately is that we analyze that work. We say narrative prose is detected. And so we've detected this is a character-driven story, and we can narrate it using a variety of different approaches on narration. And then we have the summary, and we have different channel tags that we're going to use for discovery and dimensionalizing the story, comparables, and then we analyze every work on 6 different dimensions of safety. And so you can see that was automatically all completely done behind the scenes. And because this is my thing, I'm going to show you multicast here real quickly. And so what we're doing now is we're making passages. So when we do the multicast work, we go through a lot more processes. We have a lot of trained AI models working behind the scenes right now to then separate that work into multiple passages. And when it comes to creating the perfect narration, whether it's single narrator, whether it's dual narration for romance writers, whether it's multi-character, multi-voice, the thing is to really prepare that work for perfect narration. And so here you'll see that we've identified 3 different characters in the work. We've got the narrator, of course, right? You always have the narrator, but then we have 2 speaking characters as well. Derek, the young American male, and then his British friend, Sienna. And so let's go ahead, and what we'll do is really quickly, we'll go in and we'll see what it's like to create these voices for these characters. So Derek, so what you'll notice right here for Derek is that we have a description of the character. We then have a prompt which describes that character. And if you want to go and choose from our library of 300 voice actors, you can do that here, and we'll surface the ones that are best for this character. But if you want to generate a voice on the fly that's never been before heard for your character or for narrating your single narrator story, then you can do that here, and that's pretty incredible to think about that. And to think about being able to do that automatically across your entire work is pretty magical. And so let's just take a listen here.
Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way? Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way?
Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way? No, I mean, why do they call that band of stars the Milky Way?
So I'm going to choose the first one here because it just seemed like the best for this character. And so now you can see how much that would cost. So all of Derek's passages would cost a whopping 5.7 pennies.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what AI narration allows you, is a really inexpensive way forward for doing it. And so now we're saving that voice, and then we can just choose our other 2 voices, Sienna and the narrator, and then that work will be done, and then we'll narrate it. And then you just upload your cover art and confirm the summary and that kind of thing, and then it's live. And
That's
so I'll
it.
go ahead and pause there because we've only got a short amount of time together, but that's how that works.
That's really amazing. And I would have chosen that Derek as well. That was Derek. Like I heard that and I was like, yeah, that's Derek. And I think people watching will just be mind blown because I think we still feel AI voices are robotic and it has moved on so much. Like you said, this technology wouldn't have existed just a little while ago. And some of the work that I've been doing around what is possible with my own voice, and I'm still leaning into that. But I do think it is fascinating. Like I am fascinated by it. I'm fascinated with the artistry of it. I'm fascinated with being able to bring stuff to life that is soothing to people and exciting to people. And with spoken as well, like you said, it's like you could just be lost in the world of spoken for like a whole holiday, right? Like you could go on holiday and you'd be like, well, it's me and spoken. Like we're just here, we're going to listen to some stories. So yeah, I absolutely love that, Phil. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And so well, a couple of other things here that are sort of interesting is you can add your own introduction. And so not only can like your title and the author be read by your narrator that you choose for your work, but you
Mm,
can actually choose to narrate your own intro here for your work as well. And if you want to use lexicon, there are some things that will pick up automatically that might have uncertain pronunciation, and you can just put in what how you want it pronounced, and it'll do that across your entire work. And so, yeah, so there's some things here which become really interesting, and you can see how the passages look when you do a multicast work. Again, multicast is kind of the fanciest thing that happens on spoken. Most all of our works are done through single narrator, but in that period of time right there, that the entire work is now spoken, and then you can just play it. Let's take a listen.
mm.
Welcome to the Audioverse, a spoken original,
Sienna,
Derek said, breaking their long silence as they stared upward at the stars. Sienna took in and let out a long, wistful breath.
What's on your mind, Comanchero?
With the Oregon surf rolling one gentle crash over another in the background, Derek felt certain that lying there pondering the vastness of the universe next to his best friend was about as perfect as anything could be.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
Mm.
And that line that I mentioned to you, where she changes her voice into a Southern American drawl,
Mhm.
well, the AI is not necessarily going to get that right. So let's see if it did or not.
I'd say things in an American accent like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22.
Well, that's just not right. So she needs to be a lot more emotive than that. So let's use speak it here real quickly, and I'll show you how it comes out. I'd say things in an American accent like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22. And so now when we loop that through the models, it will come out exactly as I spoke it. Okay.
Mhm.
So that becomes a way to really control when you have a passage that needs to be delivered in a very particular way,
Mm.
then you have the ability to do that. And so let's take a listen now.
I'd say things in an American accent like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22.
So
So
good.
that,
So
that
good.
becomes pretty interesting at that point. And
Yeah,
then
and because there's so much control in that, Phil, isn't there? Like it's like got its own heartbeat there. Like you can put so much in, and I know so a lot of authors that I've worked with have been really disappointed at the way that their books have been read, by the production company wants to do it a certain way, the publisher wants it a certain way, and this puts creative control back with the author, which I absolutely love. I just think that's wonderful, like a beautiful, beautiful thing that you guys have created. So I'm sure, well, the people that subscribe to me and are working in this way and really open to this are going to be really excited about it. So that's really exciting. And also, that point that you made about the blend of readers versus writers, well, listeners versus writers, it's been something that we have only just tipped the balance on in Substack. So for a while last year, it was like, oh, it's great and all, but like, are we all just asking each other to subscribe to each other's work and pay us for each other's work? And I was really holding steady at that point because I could see Substack were bringing in a lot more influencers into the sphere and that the reader crossover was happening within the social network of Substack. And now we've definitely got that. So they have done that work to bring new readers into our space and new listeners into our space. But it comes from us being open to reciprocity and to collaboration and to be working with each other. So I met Russell on Substack, as you know, and then ended up speaking at his conference and like meeting you. So all of those relationships that interplay with us being online and meeting in person, I think there's so much potential there, but it definitely starts where we need to cheerlead each other as the people who create the work. And then as we all bring our audiences in, things shift and change. So it's a very exciting time for Spoken. It'll be great when you get your work on there as well, Phil. That's an interesting hybrid that you're planning.
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. I've been on a 24-year journey now with this novel,
Wow.
and so finally, yeah, I'm excited to bring it to the world, and so being able to pair audio in a serialized fashion with Substack
Mm.
will be really, really interesting, I think. And I'm brand new, so I don't exactly have a following, on it. And so it'll be interesting to see how that builds. The story I'm very excited about, and the universe that it brings out and the characters and then the subsequent novels as well. I'm running a company right now, which takes a lot of time, but
Mm.
I'm really looking forward to being back into the writer mode as well. And just I don't know, it's just such a blessing to be able to think about stories in imaginative worlds and allowing the mind's eye of a reader to go in the place that you've created, right? That special
Mm.
place that you've created. And especially now, as so many things are happening that are disruptive and scary and threatening, and there's so much uncertainty, allow some of that uncertainty to be discovery of new worlds and new spaces that somebody else's mind has created that are wonderful and immersive. And what a blessing it is to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally, totally that. I went into the flagship Waterstones store, which Waterstones is like our biggest bookstore over here in the UK. So I went into that one with my friend who works in publishing. Couple of months ago, and it's a huge store and it just feels so expansive and so full of potential. And I have a tiny little bookstore in my local town, so it always feels really nice for me to be there. And he was there for an event, and he was talking to me about what's popular and what's not, and I was like scanning the shelves and seeing what was signed and seeing what I wanted to pick up and stuff. And it feels like we can bring some of that energy to the work that we're doing, because people forget like how expansive creativity can be and how we can make things work on our own terms. Like you serializing what you want to serialize while talking about Spoken on Substack, while inviting people over to Spoken to like listen to your work. I just love that. Like, why not? The technology's there. So I think it's really exciting. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Oh, it's
It
been
was
really nice to reconnect. And I feel like, we were all processing so much in New Orleans. Like the town itself, the city itself is like a lot in the best way. And then we had this whole environment of loads of different people coming together. So I just thought there was something so, so special in what you guys have created that I wanted to bring to my audience. And I'll just keep doing that. I'll keep promoting what you're doing with Spoken. I'm going to try it out myself. I'm excited to do that just because it feels playful, and we all need more of that as well. So yeah, that'll be really good.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's so great to see you and connect with you again. And for your viewers, it's spoken.press, and you can
Mhm.
use the promo code BRAVE to get free access to the studio. And it's all free right now. And so we welcome you to go in, play around, and create your worlds.
Great. Yes, let's do some world creations. I'll put all of that stuff in the show notes for you guys if you're listening. If you do want to watch the video and see some of that screen share that Phil very kindly did for us, it was a beautiful walkthrough and it's over on my YouTube channel. I'll link that below as well. Thanks again, Phil. I'll catch you really soon.